It happened in less time than it takes to reboot a laptop. One moment, I was being applauded for pulling our biggest quarterly save. The next, I was being asked to clear my desk by someone who couldn't explain why without looking at the floor. The worst part? I still said thank you on the way out. Before we dive in, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the month. I made a promise to my dog. Once we hit 10K, I'll buy him a brand new cooling mat. He's counting on you, and so am I. So if you enjoyed the story, please hit that subscribe button. My name is Caleb Merritt. I'm 33, fiercely resilient, and built my career on straight talk, long hours, and fixing things no one else could. The day started like any other Wednesday. Lukewarm coffee, inbox chaos, and a standing 9 a.m. call with the product devs. I had just pulled off a Hail Mary last week, saving our biggest enterprise client from walking away due to a critical software bug. I stayed up 3 straight nights working alongside the dev team, even writing some patch code myself. It worked. The client not only stayed, they expanded. So you can imagine how confused I was when Diana from HR pinged me at 8:43 a.m. Hey Caleb, can you come by conference room 3A at 9 sharp? Shouldn't take long. My stomach twisted. That room wasn't for team check-ins or brainstorms. That was the room, the one with soundproof walls and awkward tissue boxes. I walked in and immediately saw Greg, my boss. He looked uncomfortable. HR was already seated, legal pad ready. No small talk. Caleb, this is hard for all of us, Greg started, but we've decided to move in a different direction regarding your role. What? I laughed, stupidly. Is this a restructuring thing? I literally just… This isn't performance-related, Diana cut in gently, as if that helped. Your position is being eliminated effective today. Eliminated? I blinked. I saved a $9 million client 7 days ago. Greg wouldn't meet my eyes. That was appreciated. But this is above me. It's executive level. That was a lie. I knew the execs. Half of them had sent me congrats emails on the client turnaround. One even called me a lifesaver. I stared at Greg. So what is this really about? He hesitated. There were concerns about your communication style. Feedback said you're intense. You mean I didn't kiss enough ass? I clenched my jaw. So, not a performance issue, not the client, just concerns. From whom? Silence. I stood up. You're firing me for being good at my job. Greg's face turned red, but he said nothing. Diana handed me an envelope. Severance. NDA. And then the door opened. A figure walked in. Someone I hadn't seen in months. Someone who definitely wasn't supposed to be in the building. And that's when everything started making sense. And falling apart. The door clicked shut behind her like a gavel. Wow, she said, with that same smug half-smile I remembered all too well. Didn't expect to find you still here. Madison Drake, former senior director of strategy. My old mentor turned rival. She left abruptly 6 months ago. Or so we all thought. Rumor was she clashed with the C-suite and walked away after a massive fallout. But there she stood, designer heels clicking across the tile like she never left. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, ignoring the stares from Greg and Diana. She tilted her head. Oh, Caleb. Still so direct. I'm back, reinstated, Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. Greg looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. I narrowed my eyes. So you pushed this. She gave me that corporate smile, all teeth, no soul. Let's just say I flagged a few concerns when I returned. There were patterns, tensions, high attrition on your cross-functional teams. Leadership felt it was time for a fresh start. Patterns? You mean the pattern of me cleaning up your mess after you bailed mid-quarter? I said, voice low and shaking. Or the pattern of being the only one who actually shipped deliverables on time? Greg flinched. Madison didn't. You were never a team player, Caleb. You performed, sure, but people feared you. You don't get to lead if no one wants to follow. I laughed, bitter and raw. Funny, no one followed you out the door when you left. Her eyes flickered just for a second. Gotcha. Diana cleared her throat. Let's keep this respectful. Respect? This was an ambush, a calculated knife-in-the-back exit made to look clean. You're doing this now, I said slowly, because you know if I stayed, I'd be promoted before the end of Q3. No one denied it. Greg finally stood. Let's not drag this out. I grabbed the envelope off the table and stared Madison down. You're underestimating me. She shrugged. You'll land on your feet. You always do. I walked out of that room burning, not just with anger, with clarity. I wasn't just being fired. I was being erased, silenced before I could rise any further. Madison didn't want competition. Greg didn't have the spine to push back. They needed a scapegoat with a record so spotless it would make everyone too scared to ask questions. But here's the thing about burning bridges. Sometimes they light the path forward. As I rode the elevator down, I pulled out my phone. There were 3 unread texts, all from the same number. Hey, just saw what happened. You free to talk? Still interested in what we discussed last month? I think it's time we build this thing. Together. The name under the messages made me freeze. I hadn't talked to him in years. Not since he quit after Madison tanked his entire product division. But if he was serious, they just fired the wrong guy. I sat in my car for a solid 20 minutes, the engine idling while the envelope burned a hole in my lap. The words inside it, legalese cloaked in politeness, meant nothing anymore. Severance, non-compete, NDA, Madison's parting gift wrapped in a bow of cowardice. But those 3 texts, they cracked something open. I think it's time we build this thing. Together. The sender, Aaron Patel. He was my former colleague, once head of product, and easily the most brilliant operator I'd ever worked with. 5 years ago, we ran half the company's strategic roadmap shoulder to shoulder. He was the kind of guy who thought in systems, who could see 5 steps ahead without breaking a sweat. And he'd been ruthlessly axed after challenging Madison in an executive review. She'd labeled him disruptive, and the board ate it up. He'd vanished after that. Now he was back, and apparently, watching. I texted back, "Name the place." 2 hours later, we met at a rooftop bar in Midtown. It was chilly, overcast, the kind of gray sky that felt like it had something to prove. Fitting. Aaron raised a glass when he saw me. Didn't think they'd actually do it? They didn't fire me, I said, sitting down. They deleted me. He nodded. Same playbook, same puppeteer. He pulled out a sleek, leather-bound folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a pitch deck. 20 slides. One idea. A startup, already funded, already scoped, already staffed, designed to dismantle everything Madison's empire had bloated into. Wait, I said, flipping through the slides. You're building an ops optimization platform for enterprise-scale strategic teams? Bingo. And you want me to be co-founder, COO. I build the product, you run the ops, we go lean, move fast, and target the orgs Madison could never touch because she made enemies in every room. I looked up. Aaron, This is war. He smiled. Number, it's judo. And just like that, the grief began to mutate. The humiliation, still raw. But under it, something sharper. Purpose. We talked for hours. Strategy, funding rounds, early access lists, investor decks. He had a dev team lined up offshore. A waitlist of ex-clients from our old company who hated what Madison had done to their accounts. But most interesting of all, he'd already poached someone still inside. A source? I asked. Aaron shook his head. More than that, a believer. You'll meet them soon. My mind raced. I was in. Of course I was in. There was no other way to fight back. Not in the same system that had just thrown me out. We had to build something better, smarter, honest. But before I could even sign the NDA he handed me, my phone buzzed again. New email. From Madison Drake. Subject: Re. Severance conditions clarification. And there it was, a line in the fine print I hadn't noticed before. Breach of Clause 9b will result in immediate forfeiture of all severance and benefits. Clause 9. B. No involvement with any entity deemed competitive to company name for a period of 18 months. 18 months. She knew. She knew I'd try to build something better. Madison was already playing her next move. But so was I. I stared at the clause on my screen like it had teeth. It didn't just block me from building something new. It was designed to bury me in silence. 18 months was an eternity in tech. Long enough to lose momentum, capital, connections. Long enough for Madison to dig in, rewrite history, and make sure no one remembered how close I'd been to the top. Aaron leaned over and read the line. She lawyered the hell out of this. Yeah, I muttered. She knows I'm a threat. He smiled. Then don't give her the satisfaction of playing by her rules. Easy to say. Harder when your entire financial safety net is being held hostage by one line of buried legalese. I flipped the envelope open again, scanning the fine print, thinking like a builder, not a victim. And that's when I saw it. Clause 9b applied only to companies operating in direct market competition with our former employer. Aaron's platform? It could be interpreted as competitive if you squinted, twisted the pitch deck, and wore Madison's paranoia-like glasses. But the version of the company I was imagining? It was leaner, focused on internal team intelligence, analytics-driven project velocity mapping, not client-facing ops optimization, internal diagnostics for scaling startups. A pivot, a simple shift in language, design, intent. Just enough to say, we're not competing, we're redefining. Aaron, I said slowly, what if we take the skeleton of your platform and reframe it for emerging startups? Not Madison's bloated Fortune 5s, but seed stage and Series A companies who actually need to optimize their teams before they scale. Blinked. Pre-enterprise. Exactly. Target a different market, different price point, different positioning. It's not a violation. It's evolution. His grin spread. God, I missed working with you. We clinked glasses. That was the moment we stopped reacting and started building. The next 72 hours were a blur of motion. Lawyer calls, revised prototypes, domain hunting, logo iterations, whisper network recruiting. I slept maybe 4 hours total. But every email we got from an old colleague, every, I heard what happened, I'm in, added fuel to the fire. Then came the call. Blocked number. 6:17 p.m. I answered. Caleb, said the voice on the other end. It's Mia, from Greg's team. Mia Torres, Madison's former executive assistant, a total ghost since the merger, sharp as hell, kind, unshakable. "I'm not supposed to be calling you," she whispered, "but you need to know something's off." My pulse jumped. Off how? "I overheard Madison talking to Greg. She's building a case. Said she wants to make an example out of you." I stood, pacing. "She's worried." "Good." "No," Mia said. "She's vindictive. And she has files, Caleb. Stuff that's edited. Spun." "Wait, what kind of files?" "She's twisting your performance data, manufacturing feedback. She's preparing for the chance you go public." My throat went dry. "She's not just trying to fire you, Caleb," Mia said. "She's trying to ruin you." And just like that, this stopped being about revenge. It became survival. By the time I hung up with Mia, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, but adrenaline. Madison wasn't playing chess. She was playing checkmate, altered records, retaliatory damage control. She wasn't just trying to protect her title. She was trying to salt the earth behind me so no one would ever hire me again. But she underestimated something. I don't burn easy. I walked straight into Aaron's loft, where he and two of our engineers were whiteboarding back-end architecture. I dropped my phone on the table and repeated everything Mia told me. By the time I finished, Aaron was already booting up a virtual machine. "You know what this means, right?" he said. "Yeah. I can't just build something new." "You have to prove who you were." Exactly. We shifted gears, hard. Every file I'd backed up from my time at the company, screenshots, Git commits, project logs, time-stamped Slack messages, became our war chest. This wasn't some petty exposé. It was insurance, a digital paper trail to show the truth behind Madison's performance claims. But we needed more. That's when Aaron opened our new Slack workspace and added a name I hadn't seen in months. Clara Yoon. Brilliant data analyst. Formerly stuck 3 levels below where she should have been because Madison thought she was too introverted for leadership. Clara and I had worked together on the big client save last quarter, the one they were pretending didn't happen. Within minutes, Clara messaged, "Already heard, I'm in. Also, I still have access to the performance review dashboards. Want receipts?" Game on. Clara pulled every review I'd ever had. The real ones, the ones filed before Madison's return. They painted a very different picture. Top 5% performer, highest team feedback scores, promotable. And then, a sudden shift. Post-Madison. Vague red flags. Poorly written peer complaints with no context. Review summaries that didn't even match the projects I'd led. She'd rewritten history. But we had the original. I felt my spine straighten for the first time in days. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was targeted. Aaron leaned back in his chair, watching the folder grow. "We don't release it now," he said. "We wait." "Wait for what?" "For the next person she screws over, because there will be one. And when they come forward—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. It wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about building something that couldn't be twisted, rewritten, or buried under someone else's insecurity. 1 week later, the startup was real. Name, Signal North. Mission, help small scaling teams track real-time internal effectiveness with integrity-first metrics. Traction, 87 companies on the waitlist. Funding. First seed check landed from an angel investor who also used to work under Madison and left screaming. Team, 6 and growing. That morning, I got a LinkedIn notification. "Madison Drake has viewed your profile." Of course she had. And an hour later, email from legal@formercompany.com. Subject, urgent, alleged competitive activity. Here it came. But this time I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The legal email was a shotgun blast in a suit. All bark, no truth. Phrases like material breach, intellectual property risk, and pending investigation were strung together like they expected me to panic and fold. But here's what they didn't count on. I had already lawyered up. I had every file, every timestamp, every email. And I had Clara. We didn't just respond. We responded surgically. My attorney, a quiet killer named Drew who specialized in startup founder disputes, drafted the reply. It was 20 pages long. Attached were notarized records, Slack exports, cloud backup screenshots, and most importantly, Clara's sworn affidavit, laying out the exact timeline of review tampering under Madison's directive. And at the bottom, a single line in bold. If you choose to pursue this further, we will file for retaliatory interference and defamation under California Labor Code 1102.5. Translation: you want to throw hands in court? We will drag you, and the receipts are loud. For a week, silence. Then a one-line reply from legal. We consider this matter closed. No apology, no retraction. But more importantly, no lawsuit, no more threats. And just like that, the wall came down. 2 weeks later it happened. A post went viral on LinkedIn. Not mine, but from a former sales lead who'd also just been fired suspiciously by Madison. His post called out a pattern of toxic management and executive cover-ups. It was vague, but it sparked a firestorm in the comments. Then another ex-employee commented, "Madison Drake strikes again." Then Clara dropped a comment. Just 2 words. Not just him. Then my inbox exploded. I got messages from recruiters, from angel investors, from journalists. One DM stood out from a respected columnist at a major tech outlet. Heard rumblings about a stealth mode startup launched by an ex-SVP after a controversial firing. Any interest in going on the record? I showed it to Aaron. He just said, "Let's introduce ourselves properly." So we did. The article dropped 3 days later. Headline: From Scapegoat to Startup, How One Fired Exec is Rewriting the Rules of Team Ops. The story spread like wildfire. Not because I was petty or spilled secrets. I didn't. It caught fire because I spoke with truth, and because every person who'd ever been undercut by someone like Madison saw themselves in it. Our waitlist doubled, then tripled. Then we landed our first big-name VC. Pre-seed became seed. Signal North was real and thriving. Last week, I saw Madison at a tech conference. She walked past our booth, flanked by 2 junior execs. Tried not to look. But I saw it. That flicker of recognition, of disbelief, of fear. I didn't wave, didn't need to. Because in the end, she taught me the most valuable lesson of all. When they try to bury you, build something so loud they hear it from the grave.